20 years is there's not enough tradesmen. So going back to the school, if you went to university and got an education, good for you. If you served in apprenticeship, it's the same thing. You should be proud as can be. Keep your tools clean, show up on time, dressed, ready to go to give your all every day. It's what attitude you should bring to it. But whether you're a white collar worker, which I respect, or a blue collar worker, I think a blue collar worker is more well rounded because you're facing elements of weather, facing elements of you take me off this job and put me with these 10 guys now for a day. You have to be able to get along, support each other, line up and work physically hard. You have to care. Yeah. So blue collar worker, I feel it's a good title. At one time maybe frowned upon, but now equal status to everything else.
Yeah. Awesome. We are live. No, we're not. I'm just kidding. I know we spoke about that before, but we are not live. So we have Mike and Steve here at the Masons Conversations. Welcome. So happy to have you guys here. Steve, we're just meeting obviously today in person, which is cool. I know we spoke a lot over the phone and through text message. So glad to have you here. And we have the handsome Mike Giacometti right next to you.
That's right.
That's your son-in-law, right?
Son-in-law?
How's it feel to have a nice Italian stud like that as a son-in-law?
Very happy to have him in the family.
Good.
Very happy he served his apprenticeship with me.
Nice. So, that was with you?
Yeah, from my company, yeah.
But when
we first met, he was working for a landscape company. And he said to me, I want to become a stonemason.
Okay.
So I said, okay.
Cool. So this is the reason why you are a Mason.
That's right.
Really?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought you were just like, maybe you seen it somewhere in school or something and then kind of picked it up and said, I want to go to school for that. Because you went to the Mississauga Training Centre, correct?
Yeah, OMTC. Yeah, I came home from playing hockey in the States and did one more summer of landscaping. And we did a lot of outdoor fireplaces and barbecues. And once we started to get into the wet lay stuff and away from the patios, I kind of started finding myself noticing that I had better days when we were kind of doing that sort of stuff. So then obviously just dating Leah at the time, I'd come over, and Steve would be coming home from work much earlier than I was coming home from work, but longer days landscaping. And we started obviously talking more, and I actually had a friend that did the schooling in Ottawa, but coming home from school and living away and doing long distance, it's obviously tough. So then to start that conversation again and, hey, I'm going to go live in Ottawa for 4 months and do the schooling out there. Steve had a connection through OMTC and reached out for me, and there's a minimum number of hours that you kind of need to start the apprenticeship program through them. But I was lucky enough to kind of get in kind of last minute. I think I worked for maybe like a month in January with Steve, and then
in January too.
Yeah, right into right into
My
the
favorite.
Schooling after that, and
the worst month.
Kind of the rest was history, and took it on. And Steve's partner at the time made it very clear that it wasn't kind of like a father-in-law, son-in-law gig, and he wanted to see me actually pursue the trade. And obviously I was all for it. No advantages,
Nice.
So I just jumped right into it, and then we worked for 5 years, I guess, together. And then Steve kind of retired, and we were getting married and wanting to buy a house and finding a location for that. And I was turned on to TMC through another guy that I worked with, and now we're here.
Nice. Man, it's cool to get that backstory because I didn't really know it all in detail. And for the viewers, obviously, Leah is your daughter.
My daughter, yeah.
And so because of Leah, Mike Giacometti is now a Mason.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Custom Mason.
That is amazing. Yeah, he's definitely an artist with that trowel. He definitely is. And obviously he learned a lot from you.
Yeah.
So, no, that's cool though. So you did landscaping though, but you guys are doing dry lay, like dry stack stuff, like fireplaces, stuff like that.
Well, that like patios and, but working in Oakville, it's obviously on these big estates that
Yeah.
have these other types of, like we did a lot of flagstone wet lay, but then also that transitioned into just fireplaces and 3-size natural stone. So you kind of get a little bit of a taste for that without really having any training or knowledge behind it. And then that just transpired my whole outlook on what I kind of wanted to be doing. I wanted to get off the ground, and it's obviously kind of backbreaking when you're doing a lot of flagstone and laying patio pavers and stuff like that. So
Very seasonal too.
very seasonal, yeah.
Oh yeah, because my brother Justin is involved in that sector of the construction industry, and it's either you're doing the whole landscape hardscape thing for those the spring, summer months, fall, and then boom, winter comes. It's you're plowing or you're sitting at home on EI, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, that's cool though that you that's where that passion started though. For obviously masonry, was what you were seeing on those jobs when it came to, and obviously working with certain products, wet lay, but obviously on the ground, and now you're doing it on the wall.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
For me, looking towards the apprenticeship, obviously having an athletic background, you're kind of always working towards something. So I was in the mindset that I wanted to get to the end of the apprenticeship. I wanted to keep learning and continuing doing the schooling, and you just learn. There's so much knowledge out there and so many different things that you need to kind of get a grasp on, and it was easy for me to kind of take that on so shortly after finishing school and like graduating. Like I took business and had no interest in that, but they didn't offer any trade programs in university, so
no doubt.
I was just there to play hockey. But
and you knew this was the man who was going to help you get into masonry, and obviously you were able to do your apprenticeship with him and everything. So that's cool though. How was that working with
it was good.
Your soon-to-be son-in-law at that time, right?
It could have been awkward, but Mike made it pretty easy.
Good.
They were living in the basement at the time, and we'd come home from work, unload the truck in my garage. He'd go down the side of the house and go in a separate entrance, and I'd go through the garage, and we'd meet in the hall, and I'd say to him, "How was work today?"
Yeah.
And he'd say, "It was okay. My boss was an idiot, though." So we kept it. It was work when it was work time.
Yeah.
Full out, because it was my passion.
Yeah.
But then we had the relationship we still have as son-in-law, and it was good.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good to separate the two.
you need to.
Definitely.
You need to. You can't bring anything home. Not to say we had like bad days and everything like that, but it was nice to come home and we got on our motorcycles after work.
That's
and,
awesome.
Still go out in the backyard, have dinner together. It's not like 8.5 hours with him was enough.
Yeah.
That I just needed to be away from your boss kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We were still a family, and we still are now that they're living in Fergus part-time too. And
That's awesome.
It's still the same thing, coming over for dinner.
That's great.
Making plans together. Right. So it's a bond that I don't want to say it's lucky that it worked out. Mm-hmm. It was going to work out just based on our relationship together.
But it was good. I had a partner, Brent. Shout out to Brent Martin, who works for another company, and he was a good partner to have, because there was no connection with Mike. So Mike was just an employee to him.
Yeah.
So he showed him the respect that you show an apprentice, and Mike showed it right back. So I can honestly say, in serving the full apprenticeship, Mike was not late. Not one day, not one morning did I walk out where he was late. And he gave his all every day, and that was what I expected. But it might have been a situation might necessarily not would have happened that way. Mike could have easily taken advantage, and I'm the father-in-law, and he knew I was going to have to be a nice guy anyways. But not once did he take advantage of that situation. So
goes to show the type of person that he is, and I see that with TMC Masonry as well.
Very good.
So, and hard work pays off, man. If you're devoted to something and you have a passion for something and you put that hard work in, like look where you're at now.
Here
right?
we are.
So, no, that's awesome.
Proud Mason.
I respect that. Yeah, that's awesome. And when did you get involved with masonry, Steve?
I was raised in Scarborough by a very strict Scottish father.
Okay.
And graduating high school, I realized I wasn't going on to a secondary education. So my dad said, "Might you take a trade?" And showed up to Clifford Masonry Limited, which was a big company in Toronto, and got my start there. I worked for the first 2 years on the Cathedral of Transfiguration up in Markham.
Wow.
On mechanical stone, and it was I couldn't, the first day I couldn't stand on a 6-foot-high scaffold without being nervous.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, I was climbing 35 frames.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. And then went down into Toronto and kept serving the apprenticeship and stayed with Clifford for about 10 years. 80s hit, a very bad recession, rolled back $10 an hour.
Oof.
Just had Leah. And I said to my wife, I'm going to go, now's the time to try my own company.
Nice.
Never look back.
Good for you.
Yeah. It was
I
good.
respect you taking that jump.
Yeah.
Because
It's a big one.
Especially at that time, I'm sure
Yeah.
it was a big challenge.
Yeah.
But you were able to make it happen. And
Yeah.
how long were you in business for yourself?
Well, about 25 years.
25 years.
24 years. Yeah.
Kudos to you.
Yeah.
You know that
Some
like
good years, some bad.
Yeah. Oh, that's like anything in life, though,
Yeah,
Steve. So, but it's tough to get the business going in the first place, and then
Yeah.
to actually keep it above
Yeah.
water.
That's
is
right.
very tough.
Yeah.
And most companies don't even make it past their 5th year.
No.
So to go 25 years,
Yeah.
kudos to you. I respect that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I have a question because you both went through the apprenticeship program with masonry. Now, how do you guys feel about, telling the viewers at home whether they should go through the program or not, or just get on the tools, jump on the wall and build your experience that way without the books, without the textbooks, the teachers and all that? Like, because I see nowadays, nobody's really going to school
Yeah.
for it. Yeah. A lot of people are just jumping right in, getting on the wall, putting the time in, and they're just learning to work with all the different products, and then they become a very skilled mason, but they're not licensed. They're not, a journey person or a red seal mason.
Right.
So what would be, is there a benefit to going to school, especially now when this is an extremely, it's one of the top dying trades in this industry.
Yeah.
So what do you how do you guys feel about that?
If I can answer first, when Mike came to, because you can say your point of view, you just went, but in my day, it was probably a little easier to not go to school and pick it up along the way and just be a hard worker and pick up the trade that way. But when Mike came to me and said I wouldn't mind serving the apprenticeship, I said to him, if you're going to work for me, I want you to, I encourage school, go to all the sessions, get your red seal, learn all that part. Because in those times where you get laid off in the winter and you go and do the session of school, you do get to take your time and figure out the stuff that is hard to pick up along the way, because your employer is going to want you to also be productive. But sometimes there's not time to learn. It's just time to do. But in the school, you graduate each session, you get a little better and a little bit more knowledge, and then you come out back into the field with the company that you're with, and you've learned more than you think you're going to learn. It's a positive experience. And then if you take it to the point where you write the red seal, you know that you've accomplished things because you've learned the knowledge it takes to write the red seal test. And then at that point, there's still years of learning.
Yeah.
But if you
stop learning.
Never stop learning. Yeah. But you don't have, if you don't have the technical knowledge that the school teaches you, you're only going to be one level. You don't expect to run your company efficiently. You don't expect to be a foreman for a company efficiently. I'm sure it's not impossible. Yeah. Guys do it. But I think school is definitely necessary. I mean, electricians, plumbers, other carpenters, they have to go to school.
Of course.
Our trade's equally as important. You can't just pick up everything along the way. It's going to take a lot longer. So when Mike came to me, he said, "Sure, I'll do that." And I mean, the winter came, got laid off, went to the session of school. We were ready for work in the spring, came back. It went great. Nice. And wrote his red seal, one of the highest marks.
Excellent.
So
excellent.
And you're fine.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? What's your take on that, Mike?
I definitely have maybe a little bit of a skewed perspective, because throughout the days we talk about it a lot, and you don't really talk about it until you've been with someone that has done it. Like just with our crews here, it's starting to grow a little bit with guys wanting to actually take that step into it. I'm a firm believer in that the red seal kind of doesn't mean anything in the sense that you can write any test, you can take anything from the course, But unless you're picking up knowledge along the way on the job site, that's where the break comes from. It's not like you can just read the textbook and go, which is what OMTC was really good for. It's only 8-week sessions. It's very dependent on job site knowledge and experience. So a day is an hour, hour and a half tops doing schoolwork, and then the rest of the day is in the shop. There's guys that can't sit in the classroom,
of course,
for an hour.
And you were one of those guys, I'm sure.
No. But for me, it was easy coming right out of university. I was used to being in classrooms, right?
Okay.
So
yeah, that was easily transferable.
it's easy to sit there and listen to the teacher and take notes.
That's right.
But for guys, they're sitting in the back of the classroom wanting to go have a cigarette
I
or
would
something
be one
like
of those
that, right?
guys.
So
Nervous energy.
it's
Like, give me a trowel already.
I think it's really important because you do learn like so much behind actually laying brick or block, or stone, whatever.
Like, I don't think most guys would know what a grapevine joiner is.
No,
right?
and that's it. Or like there's hundreds of types of mortar that you could use.
And type O and type N and type S.
So there's stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I read a little bit of that textbook.
exactly. And then just the like whole scope, they teach you the whole scope of masonry from refractory and everything. So I do tell guys, like, just go and try and test into a level and just get into it, because you have all the on-site knowledge part of it, but there's so much behind that you learn with even just like measurements and stuff like that.
That's
and
right.
They really get you into like the metric and versus, imperial and stuff like that.
We are in Canada.
Having that conversation with guys on site, and it's like, you could be doing one thing one way, someone's doing it the other, but you're having the same conversation. But at least you're aware that you're having the same conversation rather than you're kind of closing yourself off into a corner where, you're stuck in the way that you've been taught to do things. And it, like I say, it kind of means nothing, because there's guys that we work with that haven't done the schooling, but they were taught great. So that's a dying aspect of the trade too. The teachers. Yeah. So I think that that's huge in the sense that you don't need the schooling, but I feel like there's this negative stigma to it where it's like, well, why are you going to the school? I know it's also hard for guys. Like, you got to go on unemployment. You're missing your paycheck.
That's right.
Guys have families and houses and stuff like that. So there's a lot that's why you have to be committed to doing it. Of
course.
You have to want to do it for yourself. And lucky for me, I lived in Mississauga at the time. I wasn't paying rent. It'd be sort of arrogant to not take that responsibility on as I'm in that scenario, right? Yeah. So I preach it to guys to go and do the schooling. It's not to say like you're going to be so much better when you come out of it, but you're going to feel better about doing it, and you're going to have more confidence to it. I struggled in the schooling at parts because we did a lot of stonework, but the schooling is all brick and block. Yeah. So that's great. Like, you're doing amazing things on these amazing houses, but all of a sudden you have to build a 5 foot by 7 foot brick panel and you're lost. So it's stuff like that. You're truly on your own in the school. You can ask questions to the teachers, but they'll let you work for an hour and then come back after that hour and show you something that's wrong. Yeah. Take down your work. Yeah. Build it back up. So that's the sense that Steve's talking about, where it's not so much do as do it right and learn to do it right. Because when you make those mistakes on a job site, you're not just messing yourself up, you're messing a lot of things up. So absolutely, I definitely preach it to people, and I thought it was worth it. I wholeheartedly think it's worth it. And I love the school. Yeah. It's like an 8-week vacation. You're not working. It's cold outside anyways. You're not wrestling with tarps and heat. Yeah. So
but it does depend on your situation, because if you're all of a sudden you find yourself 25 with maybe your first kid or your first mortgage, it's not so easy to take the time off and go on unemployment.
That's right. That's right. No, and I agree with going to school, because I'm a firm believer in investing in yourself, and knowledge is power. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's masonry or electrician or plumber or HVAC, it doesn't matter. Like, knowledge is power. And I know that you're a Red Seal, correct?
Yep.
So that's very beneficial to TMC Masonry as well, because we are putting individuals through school, and I want to continue to do that.
Good.
Because I know that is important. And just on every point that you guys just dished out there, that's exactly why I want to do it, because I want people to feel comfortable on the wall and have that sense of knowledge. And especially when they make mistakes in school, they're being told take their work down. It's a lot different out in the field when they make a mistake and, you know, it's a large wall that might have to come down. That's
right.
very
Time is money.
different than a 5 by whatever square that they were working on. And that's obviously company time, company money. But yeah, I want to push that on every apprentice coming to TMC Masonry. And it's good to have, because I know we do have some more Red Seal Masons who are a part of TMC Masonry, which is very crucial to helping these apprentices when they get, you know, out in the field. They have their teachers, their mentors that they can look at.
That's right.
So I know Bailey, we just had a conversation about this.
Yeah.
About it's one of our younger laborers, operators who wants to grow with TMC Masonry, and he wants to take the step into becoming a Mason.
Good.
And I told him, I already had the great conversation with him over the phone saying, I would love to send you through school. And I think he is in a position where he should do it because he doesn't have any kids. He doesn't have like a shit ton of responsibilities, right? He does, but not a crap load where it'd make that decision tough for him.
Right. Yeah, and he's
so
still
that's
young.
why I said, let's just jump right in it.
Yeah.
I already have connections with Apprentice Search because we already did that with one of our current apprentices, Joshua. I already went through the whole process. So now it's here. I know what to do. And with Bailey, it's going to be very,
That's great.
very easy to do. So
Beneficial to his future.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I it's cool to see somebody who's so new, so green when he started, couldn't even run any of my machines, didn't know how to set up scaffold, like the works, right? But he started as just a mason tender, dishing out bricks, mortar, and then he learned to get on the saw. Now he's, you know, tending to the masons on the scaffold with giving bricks, stone, whatever product we're working with, the mortar, tampering the mortar, and then making the cuts.
Very good.
And then he leveled up to an operator. And what operators do, set up scaffold, mix the mortar. So then he had to learn all of that. And now he's quite versatile. He does it all.
All those
So now the
skills.
next step is become a mason.
Yeah.
So, and we have so Joshua Eckert, his dad, his father, who will be on the show, one of our episodes coming up, I believe we have him scheduled in. Frank, you know Frank Eckert.
Yeah.
He
did OMTC with Mario.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talk a lot now.
Yeah, good.
and that's his son who works with TMC now. That's our new apprentice. So you know, having Frank and then having Laura, who is she is part of job development with Apprentice Search. So everything is just going to flow smoothly when it comes to getting apprentices involved with OMTC or whether it's Conestoga.
That's
but
great.
I am pushing everybody to the program that you went to, OMTC. Yeah. So have you heard any like differences between Conestoga's masonry program and OMTC's?
I haven't heard too much about it other than the fact that the Conestoga one is different in the way that there's less job site experience. That's what's so nice about the 8-week section is in all 3 of my levels, I think only one other person was in level 1, level 2, and level 3 with me.
Got it.
So you do see guys fall off. And unfortunately, I know for other companies, like in level 1, the kids that were only in there to get off the saw, and then they become an apprentice. So then they get a little pay bump. And then you see level 2, they never really want to get to level 2 because maybe their company has given them what they want. But then level 2, you finish, they say the level 2 was the hardest one. But then when you get to level 3, then it's like, it's people that want the red seal. They're striving for the red seal. And the 3rd level is a very unique level where it's all stonework. You build a fireplace. You learn about that whole section of it. And then the last week of it is all red seal prep. You're done your project. Nice. You're in the classroom the whole time doing thousands of red seal questions. So I don't know how the Conestoga one evolves in that, but I do think that the OMTC one is more realistic on what a day will bring to you as a mason.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you and the company you work for to continue to pursue more knowledge to get you through those next levels. So for us, I always said I had this very unique upbringing working on just a 3-man crew where I labored, Steve labored, Brent labored. We all built scaffold, we tore the scaffold down. We all cleaned the wall. We all cleaned up the rubble. You're working for homeowners. You can't leave the site a mess. And we had no machine, so everything was hand bombing. And other guys are coming in and you talk to them and it's like, well, I've just been making cuts for a year. And here I am. I was lucky enough that
Laying out everything.
exactly part of the layout, you know, I'm
whole
still making
aspect.
I'm still
The whole
making the
aspect.
mix.
Yeah.
I would dress stone for an extra 2 hours so that
Nice.
the scaffold was loaded with material for the whole day. Then I would finally get on the wall. But then an hour before the day was over, back down, dressing stone for the morning so that all I needed to do was make mixes for the morning and then
that
hopefully
prep.
get back on. And obviously stone works a little different than brick. The mortar lasts a little bit longer and gives you that opportunity. But like when I would talk to guys, like no trowel time, no job site layout, nothing like that.
Yeah.
And even just being part of the conversations with the homeowners and hearing these guys, we would go pick up material together. So you make like that sort of connection where, you know, even on our sites, like material just shows up, unloaded off the truck, it's up on the scaffold. You don't really get a sense of what's going on behind the scenes. So
That's right.
That's why I never would think to do it any other way than the way that I was lucky enough to be a part
you're
of.
definitely
'Cause
fortunate
you do find yourself maybe getting a little bit lost in a big company, but there was none of that. And
Nice.
to have, like Steve was mentioning, Brent, not a personal relation there. He didn't care if he hurt my feelings or anything like that. It was to do the job, but I have the utmost respect for him. The most talented mason. Like you
One of
learn
them.
so much. One of the most,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One
So,
of them.
but you're not on a job site where you're just getting screamed at by 5 masons and it's line up and why is that? And like, you know what I mean? It's
You guys weren't like doing tract homes, high production,
No,
high volume
exactly.
houses. So there's a big difference. You're not going to be
Exactly.
having people scream at you because you need production when you're doing tract homes.
Yeah.
You need production.
Yeah. Well-
So that's why a lot of those crews, there's a lot of screaming and yelling. But you were very fortunate to be in your position.
yeah.
At I'm not going to say a slower pace. Everywhere you have to produce,
Right.
but regardless, at least you weren't with a massive outfit.
No.
Because I've been with large companies and apprentices. Just like you said, saw time. That's it.
That's
You're on a saw for
Yeah.
like a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
The
something like
lowest
that.
man in the totem pole.
It's
right?
crazy.
So, yeah.
So to be able to take on every area of masonry with the organization, off the wall with scaffold mixing, all that, and then the prep work, you know, for the masons,
suppliers, etc.
and like going to, you know, pick up material, stuff like that, dealing with the suppliers. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And that obviously helped excel, you know, your knowledge even faster than all these other apprentices.
Yeah, 'cause
that's
I-
a perfect position to be in.
I even did the schooling. I think I finished in 3.5 years, and typically it's spread out over 5. But
Oh, it's three
yeah,
and a
like
half years. That's not
you can
bad.
go 1 year on. I took a year off before I did my second level, and then I
Okay.
did 2 and 3 in the
So
same
you could
year.
have finished sooner.
Sooner, yeah.
So what's the quickest rate you can go through that program at OMTC right to Red Seal?
You can do 1 year, like 1 winter. You can test in for level 2 for the next January, test in for
Got
the
it.
level 3 in the next January. So technically you could do 3 years, but there's no way you'll have the hands-on ability.
Okay.
So
like the field work.
Yeah,
Like,
they warn you to take a second year before you do your level 2.
Okay.
Now there's different scenarios. I was pretty new to everything, or like even Josh, like going on the wall, he'll have a tough time slowing down for level 1
Okay.
because it's very basic. But then level 2, they ramp up. You're doing arches. The walls are, you have to build your scaffold to finish your projects, and it's a lot more like you're relying on your production throughout the day as well.
Okay.
So if you're struggling with that, I remember a teacher, I was behind on our brick project. You do block, brick, and then stone. And I was behind on my brick. I chose to do the brick first before the stone because I knew I'd have a tougher time with it because we didn't do a lot of brick. So the teacher actually came to me and said, like, hey, listen, you're a little bit behind here. Like, there's only 2 weeks left in the school. You might want to think about just going back to work, like, try this again. And I remember reassuring him that once the stone project comes, I'll be done in a couple of days. It's no problem. And sure enough, before the next week was over, I was done my stone project and I had a week off before the school was finished. And I just did like more classroom work and an extra 2 projects or something like that. I don't really remember what it was, but that's my own self-awareness that I knew I was going to be in a good spot. So like Josh was already on the wall.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine throughout his course of action through that. But everyone's different. Yeah. And when you see guys not even know where to start, like when you're in the classroom, they don't do anything for you. They don't know. You don't want to chalk your own line. You don't want to, work out your coursing to see if something works. Guys are lost with that. So that was another thing that I just got to witness day in and day out with Steve and Brent, where they would figure out their cuts for the brick bond and this and that. And, you're a little bit more comfortable with it. Obviously still very new. I'm not saying I was like a master of anything. I still struggled with everything. And the brick is confusing when you're there on your own and the teacher's like, no, why do you have that cut instead of, something else? And it's like, oh, I didn't think of that. But they won't tell you that right off the bat. They'll let you struggle for a little bit.
That's how you learn, though.
That's how you learn. And I think that, again, I have no like relation to the other schooling, but that's something that's very realistic about being on the job site.
I like that.
And that's how they want to teach it.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What was school like for you, Steve?
It was similar to what Mike's saying.
Okay.
It was similar back in those days, maybe a little more lax. It was a little more get back to the job.
Okay.
And more hands-on, a lot more screaming on the job, less encouragement and more.
Everyone always says that for back in the day.
It was not a lot of encouragement. You didn't have a lot of time to show that you were new. You were just expected to be able to do it. So I remember quite a few years where it was pretty abrasive, but I'd come from a Scottish upbringing. My dad was a captain in World War II, so it didn't bother me.
Amazing, yeah.
But it was pretty tough. But I remember when I started my company, I thought to myself, I'm not going to be a screamer because I was working when I was working as hard as I can and doing pretty good. I didn't understand why they were still screaming. Like it was an encouragement. It was still not belittling, but it was pretty.
But that's disrespectful.
Maybe. And I understand the foremen were under the gun, but it was a different time.
Of course, I got yelled and screamed at like crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I didn't get anything from that. So I thought I wouldn't apply that to the guys I trained.
But just like you said, you didn't get anything out of it. So what is the purpose other than making somebody feel nervous and they're going to fuck up even more?
That's right.
There is zero purpose to yelling.
That's right.
I've said this before too. Diamonds are made under pressure. Okay. And there was a lot of yelling and screaming, and the individual who did a lot of that yelling and screaming, I feel had a big impact as to the worker that I am. Yes. And I respect him for that, but there is other ways to go about it. Mm-hmm. You can still mold somebody and teach somebody and coach somebody to be, a valuable asset to a company in a different way with respect. Because you give respect, you get respect back.
That's right.
So
it has to come from within. I think a tradesman they have to be switched on to their own, what their own goal is. Mm-hmm. There's nothing going to stop me from becoming a bricklayer / stonemason when I started. There's nothing. Didn't matter if you were screaming at me, give me the worst part of the job to do. I was determined to become one. So it was good that way. I mean, even in the days back then, it didn't matter what you came with. If you were coming to the job to say, I'm a bricklayer, the owner of the company would say, you got an hour. Go up there. Don't tell me what you have credential-wise. Go up. You have an hour to show me. And many times guys would take him back off the scaffold for an hour.
Amazing.
Here's $20. You're not a bricklayer. I can't hire you.
That's the
Boy,
tryouts.
what pressure.
The tryouts.
The tryouts, exactly.
That's awesome. Don't tell me what you can do. Get your ass
Just
up there and show me.
That's it. It was simple as that.
Well, that's the thing, right? That is crucial, though.
It is.
Like, it's not what you know; it's what you can do, right?
That's right.
So, what's the performance like?
Yeah.
And that's what I look at too. Like, you've seen a lot of guys come and go, and it's for that very reason, or they just don't vibe well with the crew or whatever.
That's a big part of it too.
You have
It
to be
is,
able to get
yeah.
along with the team.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who's toxic, remove them.
Yeah.
Get that bad apple out of there, because just like the famous saying, one bad apple spoils the rest, and it's so
bunch,
true.
Yeah.
So eliminate those people, and that's what I've done, and that's why I have, like we had that little preliminary conversation.
Yes.
I said that list that I have of terminated employees is very, very large.
A lot bigger than the ones you kept.
Absolutely. And again, like I said before, it's the law of averages, man. And you really got to go through a lot of people to find the golden nuggets, right?
Yes.
The people who bring that value.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you guys a powerful question. And we could start with you, Steve. What does blue collar mean to you?
Blue collar. It's such a. Recently, I said to Mike, "What's going to be asked?" I'm a little nervous, and, and he said,
We'll make you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Well, so far it's okay. But blue collar. I thought what the definition was. Then I looked up the definition and exactly what I thought it was, and it's a skilled. It's having a skill mostly with using labor.
Yeah.
Whether you're
Using
unskilled
these.
or not skilled, you're using your body and your mind as well, but probably more physical than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe at one time it was frowned upon, but I think now more than ever, a blue collar worker is respected.
Absolutely.
And definitely the wages come up, and all we've heard in the last 15, 20 years is there's not enough tradesmen. So going back to the school. If you went to university and got an education, good for you. If you served in apprenticeship, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. You should be proud as can be. Keep your tools clean, show up on time, dressed, ready to go to give your all every day. Mm-hmm. It's what attitude you should bring to it. But whether you're a white collar worker, which I respect, or a blue collar worker, I think a blue collar worker is more well rounded because you're facing elements of weather. Facing elements of you take me off this job and put me with these 10 guys now for a day. You have to be able to get along, support each other, line up and work physically hard. You have to care. Yeah. So blue collar worker, I feel it's a good title. At one time maybe frowned upon, but now equal status to everything else.
Yeah.
So
I get a feeling that you're very proud to be a part of that culture, that environment. That's awesome. Oh, that's great. What about you, Mike?
I feel like the same sort of thing. I have a buddy that we were both athletes together, different sports, but when we were going through high school, then university, none of our other friends were really pursuing stuff like that. So people just don't get it when you're in it. Why are you doing that? Like, you're a little bit older. People are already in their careers. You're not really making as much money. You just live a different lifestyle. So for me, I tailor it in the same attitude towards as the people that are in it. They wholeheartedly get it. It's like nothing's new to them. The people that aren't, they just don't get it either. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that other, careers or anything like that aren't any less of a proud ship, but to be blue collar, you're waking up early before the sun's up, working hard, you're coming home. You get home, you see your kids. It's you're proud, like you guys were mentioning, of everything about it. You're proud of what you've accomplished in your day. You get to stand back and look at it. And people might not understand that, but they're not in it. They just don't get it. And that's like so black and white for me. Yeah. And getting a little bit older now, everyone's obviously in careers and the whole variety of a friendship now. You're in conversations with people and people kind of talk about work and everything like that. And then as soon as you say you're a stonemason or a bricklayer, those are when questions start coming back to you. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you might think, you're just a bricklayer. But then when you're in a social setting, people want to talk to you about it, and like I see crazy stuff, and I can't believe you guys are doing things like that, and then you get into another realm of that conversation. So it is being proud of it, and days are hard and days are good, and
lots of challenges.
And like you mentioned,
keeps the mind strong.
for me, I was new to the company at one point. You don't know anybody. I remember starting when the whole company was on one site. And then we branched off, and then now we're in a crew together, and you're still feeling guys out and getting to know guys, and guys are getting to know you. And then there were a couple times where I would get sent somewhere else. And to me, it's just walking in. Maybe that's because I've always been part of teams, but that's what a crew is. And it was very easy for me to amalgamate myself on a team. It didn't matter who was there. I love working beside whoever. I'm me. It doesn't matter. I sing, I make jokes all day.
Physical challenge is fun.
Exactly.
Make it fun.
Well,
And it's all together, and everyone's trying to get through the day together and get through the project together. And that's something that I think people that aren't blue collar might not kind of have a sense of, where they're just kind of stuck in their role, and they're part of a team, but the very individual work and my individual work, each brick that I lay or stone or block, whatever we're doing, it's individual, but the crew is getting a goal finished by the end of the day.
You didn't individually put that wall up.
Exactly.
No, that's right.
It's a team.
There's a lot of
team, and you do make a great team.
And that's
player.
not just with bricklayers. You're talking to laborers the whole day, operators the whole day, other trades the whole day, the site super the whole day. Like it's just something that people have no idea what it's like to be on a job site. And they like you said, it might have been a little bit frowned upon even, I'd say, to be a tradesman. You know, like, oh, you're working with guys like criminals or like drug addicts, whatever. And it's not like that. Some of the most intellectual people that you speak with, there's no way other people could do what people on site do to figure things out. And I know you mentioned like there's always a problem, but blue collar is getting solutions. It's not dwelling upon anything, or you got to build something 7 frames high and it seems so daunting. It's just get that done and move on to the next thing. So
man,
don't dwell on the problem.
That's it.
No, and that's the thing. I live my life by Nike's slogan: just do it, never just think about it. Maybe for a brief second, but it's always just do it, right? And there's always going to be problems and solutions, and blue collar definitely helps a person build such, a strong mind.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because there's always something new. You are never just behind 4 walls doing, the same thing every day. There's always new things, coming left and right and working in the elements, like you mentioned. Like everything about blue collar is like it really turns you into like a powerful person.
Yes.
Like physically, mentally, everything. Because what we do, like, is obviously physically challenging.
Yeah,
too.
I don't think people realize the mental like strength that it brings onto you as well.
Yeah.
I think people just think you're like a monkey just doing stuff.
Yeah.
And it's brain dead work, but again, there's a whole realm to being a blue collar worker.
And that's why we're so proud of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
100%.
And we're in the best trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
And you've built a company that is gaining reputation as a company that people want to work for. So good for you to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Soon maybe we'll have Steve as a full-time mason, stone mason, a part of the Tailor-Made Boys
That's
crew
right.
there.
My trial's clean, ready to go.
Well, let's get that trowel dirty then, Steve. Come on. Too funny. So I want to ask you guys a few questions here. So what's the most bizarre or craziest thing that has happened to you guys on the job site? We can start with Steve.
Working in Toronto, there's one of the craziest things. I was an apprentice. I was on Scotia Plaza on a swing stage, hanging mechanical stone. And I was never got used to that. I could be in the highest scaffold, but I never got used to the movement of the swing stage. So,
like swinging back.
69 floors. So Nags Head North was a bar directly across the street from Scotia Plaza, and I'm a 2-year apprentice, pretty intimidated, and I won't mention the elevator company, and they didn't get along with the other trades on the job, and at the time biggest, strongest men you've ever seen work for both companies. And we go across the street on a Friday to Nags Head North, and I'm in the corner with my friend who's an apprentice. And the stonemasons and laborers got in a physical fight with the elevator guys. No. And it was like a brawl from the Western days. We just stayed in the corner and watched it, and we could not believe it. After that incident happened, there was so much respect on that job because the elevator guys are in those pits at the bottom.
That's right.
And there's a lot of situations where stuff gets knocked down there, and but it was funny to see tradesmen bond only after punching each other out.
Sometimes I guess that's what it takes, Steve.
Yeah, I guess
nice punch to the nose.
Yeah,
that is a pretty crazy story.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have a lot more.
Yeah,
but we could do that for another. We could save that for another episode. What about you, Mike? Bizarre or crazy?
Well, crazy, I guess. But again, working with Steve, we were on a project where we had a mobile crane that we had to land pretty big pieces of precast with, and we were working in a laneway going down to 2 parking garages between these 2 buildings, and it was a pretty windy day, and I would just swamp and lay, but
explain swamp.
Yeah, swamp is
like some people are like, what do you mean, like with alligators? Like,
yeah, right.
I got the radio with the crane operator, and I'm giving him directions. He had a line of sight to where we were, but you're still communicating the entire time.
Hoisting and rigging.
No quiet on the microphone there. Always talking to him, letting him know like the speed is good. Maybe he's got to swing out a little bit, boom down, whatever. And I don't know what happened with this guy in the crane. We called him Whiskey Bill.
That might have
been a clue.
Sometimes he'd look over, he'd be sleeping in the crane. You're like, why isn't this guy answering me? And you'd look back, and he's asleep in the crane. But he was dropping down this piece of coping for us, and
2,500 pound.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but he got too close to the wall, and you could see it just started picking up a big sway through the wind as a pendulum, and we were standing directly underneath it. And Steve actually said, like, if that piece just hits the wall, it's gonna be chaotic. And sure enough, it just kept swinging and swinging back and forth. And
it was just if it had bit into the wall, it would have been a disaster.
It would have been so bad, but it just ended up coming right down to us. But to be in a position where something's so powerful like that, and you have nothing, like there's no control over that.
Zero.
There's no tagline. You're pulling that thing back. There's nothing. You're just letting whatever's about to happen. It's gonna happen, and be ready for it. So there's a couple other scenarios with the crane, but
working with cranes is always fun.
Yeah, so that's probably the craziest thing for me. I mean, I'm pretty low key on our job sites. We stuck to the homes, and
we're not going to talk about the crazy shit that we do at TMC Masonry either. So.
There's no crazy,
but not
stuff.
Dangerous. There's you try and eliminate risk, but there's always going to be a sense of danger. Yeah. You have to have your wits about you.
Keeps us on our toes,
That's
man.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, man. I like this question. So, if there was any place that you could teleport to on this earth right now, where would you go, and what would you do there?
I would go to Italy.
Nice.
Yeah. In fact, we were looking at pictures last night of our trip together. And,
cool.
And just the...
Have you been? Or
Yes.
Okay.
And the masonry structures, if you're not inspired by those there, I'll tell you. I would go to Italy. I would learn the language. And I would try and work on some restoration of stuff.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. It would be amazing to be
so
part.
Cool.
Because those buildings... Colosseum, it's constant, they're constantly working on them to keep them.
Those are like the true artisans, man, those guys.
Absolutely true artisans compared to what we do here and compared to what the trades become, you know. It's just, that's so inspiring. All the places we went from Venice to Florence to Rome. I mean, there's no one structure that stands out for me. It's all beautiful. Amazing. But I would definitely, I'd like to go there.
Great answer.
Right now.
I wish we can all teleport there right now, to be honest. What about you, Mike?
I'm the same, honestly. I'd teleport right into we did a tour into the basement of the Colosseum.
Nice.
And there's arches down there with stones
just imagine.
half the size of this room holding that
Dry
structure
arches.
up. Dry arch.
Isn't that crazy?
It's been standing for
incredible.
thousands of years. You just have no idea how that was put into place.
Is that nuts?
With paper thin joints, still standing,
Yeah.
cities above it. It's just
That's the masonry that stands the true test of time.
yeah, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And to do the trip, people are looking at how beautiful the building is. We're standing there thinking,
You guys know.
what
Yeah, the questions.
went on
Yeah.
in that job site? How did that happen? It's just
Honestly, because
Yeah,
even
like,
with all
what
the
kind of telehandler did they use to
Yes,
put that up?
exactly.
I was just going to say that even with the machines that you own and the stuff that you guys do, you look up at stuff that's 20 stories up, and a piece might weigh 5 tons. And what's it take to get a 5-ton piece into place with an eighth joint? I don't know.
yeah.
But I can
And we
only
can't even ask
the,
those guys.
The skill, the skill that it would have taken. That's awe inspiring to me in the trade.
Absolutely.
100%.
I know, and I can relate, like, because I know in Europe, it's how it is, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere you go. And I've been to Portugal, and same thing. The cathedrals, everything, every building is just,
Oh yeah,
it's
Portugal's the
remarkable.
same. Yeah.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
So our mission with the podcast, guys, is to inspire the next generation to explore the world of trades. What advice can you share with them to help them recognize the rewarding potential awaiting in this field? And I know we did have a conversation at the beginning about this, but what could you tell the younger generation to get their asses in gear and bring them out into the field here with us within the masonry sector?
It's a rewarding trade. I think if you know, as you're going through high school and you're getting your grade 12 education done, if you know that you're not going to go on to college or university and it's not really what you're looking for, get into the trade as soon as possible. It would help if you took care of your body physically,
Yep.
if you're into sports, if you're into bodybuilding or whatever, but know that the effort you put in is going to be the effort that you get out. So if you care, you take the time on to learn the trade, keep yourself physically fit, find a good company, you're going to end up making a good living. You're going to be proud of yourself. And I think it's the number one trade. So definitely I encourage guys, young guys, and don't be nervous to try. Don't be nervous to call a company. If it doesn't work out, if it's the wrong guys, go to the next company. Don't stay until you feel that you're getting respected and you're getting time on the tools and you're getting a fair wage, because because this country is now expensive. You have to make a living, and being a blue collar worker you can do that now. But I think our trade's number one.
It's a great response.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike?
I'd say sort of the same thing. I think for younger people, it's hard to dive into a trade. Doesn't matter what the trade is. I'd say especially this one, because it's definitely more physical than other trades. But I know a lot of the idea about going to university is a social aspect now. So even just with me and my group of friends, everyone from high school went to Laurier or Guelph. They all went to university together. They made new friends as
What did
time
they do
went
a
on.
lot of?
Exactly. So there's that whole aspect that you kind of have to like battle with yourself for, because you're going to go and choose to do something on your own. You're not going to school with all your friends. Not all your friends want to be plumbers or electricians. Some might. I have friends that did the plumbing together. They went to Midland and they lived together and did that. That's great. What did they do on the weekends? They drove to Laurier, Waterloo, because that's where all of our friends were. Same as me. I was playing hockey. I wasn't in university yet. I was just up there every weekend for the important parts that everyone wanted to be there for. And not to say that going to university is there's no benefit to it either, but as time goes on, you find out that the people that are in finance or the very specific aspects of what you learn in university, there's no other way to go about doing that other than being in university.
That's right.
But people that go in and just like take a general business or arts or whatever, there's a social aspect to that. So I think for young people to not be afraid to go into the trade when all their friends are going to do other things, you're not missing out on anything. There's so much that you're going to learn and grow through on your own doing your trade at that same age as all those people that you might think are doing the same growth as you being in university, but you can't be afraid to miss out on whatever you think might be important about that, because you have no interest in going to do the schooling anyways. You want to do what you want to do. You're going to catch up on all that stuff. You're going to see your buddies. You're going to do whatever you need to do. But I do know that people will start later, because I have friends that did 3 years university in their third year. They stop. They get into the trade that they wanted to be in. Now they've done 3 years of university for essentially nothing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
well, I know the university benefited from all that.
Yeah.
All that tuition.
That's it. So, and that's a big part of it too. You're going to go and jump into an apprenticeship program, and you're going to do your schooling, but you're going to work, and you're not going to start making money. Loans.
That's right.
And there's so much that
you're
people
not burying yourself.
There's so much that people don't instill on you in high school. And that's where I think that like kind of frowned upon attitude comes, because it's like, oh, the application letters are getting sent out, and my buddy applied to 7 schools and he's already got into 5 and this and that. And it's like
intimidating.
Exactly. But here you are thinking, well, I'm just going to go and do my trade. Like you're completely going against the grain, and it shouldn't be going against the grain.
No,
so
not at all.
I think to not be afraid of doing that for yourself, because in 8 years, when everyone's in the same boat, you're truly going to be in the same boat. Everyone's going to be in a job. You're going to be 8 years into your apprenticeship, or you're going to be completed your apprenticeship at that point, and you're going to just be rolling together the same way that you were before any of those decisions were made. So
get rid of all the FOMO, the fear of missing out on all the parties and all that shit, because at the end of the day, what does a party do for you anyways? It doesn't benefit you in any kind of way.
And you're still going to get it
for that slight little time, but and you still will get it, but you don't need to go spend thousands of dollars on a tuition
just because all your buddies are going there. Like it doesn't, and that's just my personal connection to it. And the trades are so rewarding,
man. Yeah. So rewarding.
So be proud.
Yep.
And you meet guys on the way, like I came in and got put on a crew with Corey, Brandon, Bailey, Brody, and now like we'll have beers together. And we'll
now we create our own party.
And it's exactly that though. It's, we had a great Christmas party and guys coming together, and you're still going to build those connections, those social connections, but you do it in such a different way than people would ever think that you would. So that's what I think to stress on younger people is that don't get into the trade because there's such a demand of tradesmen kind of thing, but
you gotta
get
want
into it because you're going to love it.
Yeah, you're going to want it.
And our trade is the best, truly, honestly. There's nothing that you don't look back at the end of the project and you see all of your work. And,
I was going to say, we're not, we're burying everybody else's work. We are the first visual appearance that you get to see on any structure. Is whether it's masonry, stucco, siding. We dress the structure.
That's right.
So you're definitely right about how you can get that sense of like, wow, we did this.
That's right.
And drive past, certain jobs that were all completed. You're like, yeah, we did that.
That's it.
Look at that. You're just
rewarding.
really proud. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, guys. And thank you for being here. Honestly, super honored to be able to meet you finally, Steve, in person.
Likewise.
And thank you guys for making that drive over here as well.
No problem.
And enjoying some time with us here in the Masons Conversation studio. So I appreciate that.
Thank
awesome.
you. Appreciate having us.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, boys.